I am pleasantly freaking out right now. I'm wondering what you all are thinking. I'm wondering if I'm going to get emotional during this talk. I might. And I wonder what you guys are going to think about that. But I know it's just my mind doing its thing. So I'm pleasantly freaking out. That's what I started calling my fears this year. In January 2017, I started a project to fold paper cranes. There's a lot of drama going on in the world at that time. And I just didn't want to sit around and complain and complain and complain. But I was frustrated finding a place for my voice. So I read the book Sadako and the 1,000 Paper Cranes. It's a story based on the life of a young Japanese girl whose family survived the Hiroshima bomb. And when she was growing up, she was diagnosed with what they were calling the atomic bomb disease, leukemia. And she was given less than a year to live. And when she was in the hospital, she was reminded of the Japanese tradition of folding 1,000 paper cranes to get your wish for health and for life. And so she started folding. And as I read more about her family and the people of Hiroshima, I got further inspired. Because the people of Hiroshima could have a reason or two to be angry. But they're focused on having different conversations for peace and education. And that got me shifting my thinking about my world. What if I started having different conversations instead of being drawn into complaining and into that realm of, I'm not going to talk to you because you're one of them, whatever them is, for you or for me. And I'm embarrassed to say, I have a couple thems. But what if I started asking people what they want to create in the world, what they want for their families, in their communities, and for the world? I might actually find out we have more in common than I initially realized. That's a place where my voice fits. Unfortunately, Sadako passed away. But her friends and classmates were inspired by her story and her courage, and they raised funds to create a memorial to all the children that died of the effects of the atomic bomb. And that statue stands in the Peace Memorial Park in Hiroshima, and that's Sadako on top, releasing a crane. So this is what I was going to do. I was inspired by the book. So I'm going to fold 1,000 paper cranes. I'm going to sneak over to Hiroshima. I'm going to fold them, throw them under a tree. Then I'm going to sneak back to America. And I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm going to keep it a secret. Because, that way, if I fail, nobody's going to know. And I realized that that's how all of my past ideas, even the smallest passion, just slowly died. Because I kept it to myself. So I decided to have a conversation. I called my friend Shannon. And I invited her and her daughter to join me in this project. And that's when my first huge fear came up. It's like, are they going to think it's stupid or weird or silly? And I got so emotional, and it kind of freaked me out because I didn't realize it was that emotional. And I could barely get the invitation out, but when I finally did, they were like, yeah, let's do this. And so that's when we became 3 friends folding 1,000 paper cranes, inviting others to fold another 1,000 paper cranes, so that we could take 2,000 paper cranes to Peace Day in Hiroshima on August 6, 2017. And I was okay with that for about a week. And then I realized 2,000 cranes, that's kind of easy. We could do that ourselves. What's going to stretch our comfort zone a little bit? What's going to really push the envelope? What's that number? It's like 5,000, 100,000? And then all of a sudden it popped in my head, what about 1,000 thousands? And then I was like, wait, how many zeros is that? And I was like, oh, that's 1,000,000. And that got my heart beating again. And so I knew I was onto something. So another conversation needed to be had. Okay, Shannon, let's just do this. Let's throw it way out there and let's just see where this adventure takes us. It's going to make us have to talk to somebody. And so we started. We started sharing with people. Little fears came up. And the more we had conversations, those fears disappeared. And that's when we started the project In the Folds of Peace. 1 million cranes, one crane, one wish for peace, and one conversation at a time. And we started sharing. We shared with people around us. I folded cranes on planes, especially if I was nervous about talking to the person next to me. And I would just keep folding and folding and folding and folding. And usually someone in the row would be like, "Those are really beautiful. Is that for a project or something?" And I was like, "As a matter of fact, it is. You want to fold one?" And so I'd get to teach them how to fold a crane, and we'd have conversations for about what we want in the world. And like, who would think these little guys, these little pieces of paper, would give me permission to talk to strangers? And I get to have these conversations. And I'd get to learn about what people want for their families, like happiness and ease for their family and life. Or what people want for the world, like for everybody to go to bed with a full stomach, or to go to have a bed to go to, and to be able to support their families. And then cranes would randomly arrive in the mail. One crane came in from a woman in Phoenix, and it had a simple wish. It was folded by her son several years earlier. And she said, "Please take this crane to Hiroshima with a wish for my son to have peace with what he's going through in life." Like, those kind of things have been the priceless things in this project. So I told my friend Yoshiko about the project. She was born and raised in Japan. And she said, "This is a really beautiful project. I don't think you get how big it's going to get, or what it means coming from the United States and going to Japan." And that got my head going. But not as much as when her parents came for a visit. Her dad found a box of cranes in my studio and brought it to the table. And he said, "I heard a little bit about your project, but I want to hear from you what it's about and why." And so I explained how it started, what we're doing, the conversations we wanted to have. And he just nodded. And he said, "As a Japanese person, I thank you for doing this project. And if you don't think that got this brain going crazy." After they left, it was saying things like, "Dude, this is too big. You can't do this. You're going to disappoint people in 2 countries now. You need to stop." And I knew that was just fear. And I knew I just needed to have another conversation. So I talked to my friends and just let the emotions come up. And that fear just slowly faded away. At the beginning of July 2017, we had about 2,000 cranes. And then they started arriving. They came from New Mexico. Oh, it has sound. Nice. They came from New Mexico, Arizona, California, Washington, Illinois, upstate New York. They even came from a couple countries, Ecuador, and even Japan. My brain was prepared for 2,000 cranes. It was not prepared for 5,000, 7,000, 8,000. I knew it was fear. I had to have another conversation. I was like, "Shannon, I am so glad we didn't get 1 million cranes this year. I am freaking out." So we figured out how to get them to lie flat, got them in a box in a duffel bag, and the rest in my luggage. And on August 6th, 2017, we took 10,228 paper cranes to Hiroshima, Japan, for Peace Day. It was a really beautiful experience. Many little miracles that day. Yoshiko's friend flew down from Tokyo to escort us around, make sure our first trip went well. He got us to the peace ceremony, where we were interviewed by a local documentary crew. We dropped off some cranes. We were even stopped by local high school kids asking us how they could continue spreading the message of peace in the world. And we talked about our project and about continuing to have conversations with each other. So it's only been a month since our trip, and we already have 2,000 cranes that have arrived. And we're prepared to have 1 million by Peace Day, August 6, 2018. And we say that the project is going to end when we reach 1 million cranes, but that's not true. When I read Sadako and the 1,000 Paper Cranes, and I folded my first paper crane, I never thought I'd be standing talking about taking 10,000 paper cranes and then moving towards 1 million. So who knows where this project's going to evolve by the time that 1,000th crane arrives. So we invite you to join us. Fold a paper crane or two, talk to each other about what we want to create in the world. But more than that, find something that interests you and step towards it. And when fear starts your mind freaking out, just know it's not going to kill you. You're just pleasantly freaking out. And have that next conversation that needs to be had. And most of all, if you need to, fold one of these little guys and let it help you talk to strangers.